Welcome to the Cash Flow Project Podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Cash Flow Project. I'm your host, Vince Gethings with Tri-City Equity Group. And today we have Dearonne Bethea on the show. Dearonne is a corporate business owner, real estate investor, founder and CEO of Band of Brothers Investment Group, and the newest addition to Tri-City Equity Group, serving as the Director of Acquisitions and Key Principal. He is a Chief Warrant Officer in the U.S. Army, and by applying leadership, strategic, and operational skills he obtained in the military to his personal life, he created and amassed a portfolio of 925 multifamily units and private equity deals, which include hotels, senior living, student housing, and fitness centers. In 2016, Dearonne created the nonprofit organization, the Dearonne and Pamela Bethea Foundation, which focuses on community outreach, entrepreneurship, and internship opportunities for young adults that need a second chance, and housing for low-income families. Dearonne, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Glad to be here, Vince.
Yep, I'm super excited. We got so much to go over. Even just planning for this show, we already decided it can't be fit into one episode alone. So we've already devised and hatched a plan that this is going to become a first episode of a mini series, which we'll be rolling out in the next couple episodes because there's just so much here. Your life is what you've done up to this point is very fascinating, very inspiring, and just so much things and so many different aspects you have experience in. And it's going to bring a lot of value to Tri-City Equity Group, and it already has, and our investors and our listeners. So just getting right into it, how did you get started, I guess, in business? Where did it all start?
Yeah, so like you said, man, it's a long, definitely a long conversation, but overall, got it started. Everyone starts from somewhere. For me and my path, it all started from my upbringing. I grew up in North Carolina, a small town called Enfield, North Carolina. It's in Halifax County. If you ever go Google it or do your homework, it's the poorest county in the state of North Carolina. I would say there's 100 counties in North Carolina. So once you come in those type of neighborhoods, you sometimes you tend to get in trouble, go down a dark path, and that's pretty much what happened to me. And pretty much got in some trouble, and I got a second chance. I call it a second chance at life, where that I was incarcerated for a little bit, and unfortunately, I ended up serving some jail time. And then at that point, I ended up going to the military after I came off probation. And I came in right after 9/11. I was actually still at home during 9/11. I got the opportunity of recruiters and all that. And, I told the judge, I said, listen, I'm going to get my act together. I'm going to go to the military. I ended up going to signing up. So I was on the delayed entry program for 12 months after I came off probation. So after I came off probation, I went straight into the military, like less than 30 days. And I had already signed up 12 months prior to, but, once I finished my time, I ended up going. I went to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. I never rode a plane, and they ended up shipping me off to, South Korea. And, that's when I met my first mentor. I went to a military police unit. I ended up, within 6 months, I ended up, running to this sergeant major. His name Mike Sampson, and I actually became his driver. And one thing, I was in Korea. I became his driver because I was only in the military for 6 months, and I still had that back home mentality where that I was in the club, and I was on the weekend. I was 20 years old. Ended up getting in some trouble there, and then next thing I'm being locked up. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm in the military police, and I'm in this unit, blah, blah, blah. And what happened was, it was a really bad incident with me and some guys in the Air Force. And I ended up, coming on top of that. But it was so bad that it went all the way up to the general officers. And and I was standing on the carpet, and I was saying, "Oh man, I'm just in the military for 6 months. I'm about to go home," and I had this sergeant major call me in his office. He said, "Why should I keep you in my army?" And I said, "Well, if I go back home, this is what I was doing before I came in, and if I go back and this one probably is going to happen, I'm probably going to end up, back into the streets or whatever the case may be." And he said, "Okay, you know what I'm going to do to you?" And I said, "Yes, Sergeant Major." He said, "What am I going to do?" I said, "You're going to send me home." He said, "You know what? This is what I'm going to do." He said, "The office you just walked through." I said, "Yes." He said, "That office right there that you walked through, that's going to be your office. You're going to come up here and you're going to work for me." Right. And he said, "Because somebody gave me a second chance." And that's when my life changed. And I'm kind of, it's a lot to it. All this stuff going to tie in here in a minute. But what happened was I go up and I started working for this command sergeant major. Again, his name Mike Sampson. I was 21 years old at the time. Only been in the Army less than a year. I was in the military police unit, and I'm this young guy, but just got in trouble. It seemed like I got a promotion to come drive for this sergeant major. And one day, by working for him, I used to sit outside his office, and I hear every conversation. When you're working for senior leaders in the military like that, you hear conversations that beyond this world, and everything is mostly secret or top secret, whatever the case may be. But this particular one conversation that we that happened was one of his junior NCOs was getting ready to get put out the military, and he was being put out the military because he already served his time. He hit what we call retention control point, meaning that he done maxed out his promotions, and he just sitting on the clock in the military. It's time for you to go. But what happened was he was coming to the sergeant major because the sergeant major used to be his senior leader when the sergeant major was a young NCO. And he came in the office and he needed money because he needed money to be able to move his family. And he didn't have no jobs. He just didn't have nothing planned. He spent a 20 plus year military career, didn't have a dollar in his name to take care of his family. And I heard that conversation clearly. And the guy walked out. He was an E7. I never forget it. He walked out the office. And when he walked in the office, I heard somebody say, "Dearonne, hey, get in here." And I I'm this young guy, 21 years old. I run his office. "Yes, Sergeant Major." And he said, "Did you just hear the conversation that happened?" I said, "Yes, Sergeant Major." He said, "Let me tell you something. I'm about to ever catch you like that. Everybody ever, have a whole military career and you don't have a dollar saved in your name." He said, get over here and show you something." So he logged onto his computer, and again, he logged into a First Command account, and he showed me his. At that time, I didn't know nothing about Roth IRA, mutual funds, nothing. He said, "This is what you need. You need to open up a IRA." And he logged in an account. And it was like $100 and some $1,000. It was the first time that anyone ever showed me that much money. And when you ever look at 100,000 for the first time, it really looked like $1 million because it'll be like 100,000, but the decimals with the pennies, you're like, "Oh man, that's like $1 million," but it really was like 100 some thousand. And then at that point, I realized that I wanted that. And only thing I remember asking him, "I want you to show me and teach me, how do I get to that?" And then at that point, he started taking time out to show me how to start off just simple investing, the TSP, the IRA, and then coming up as a kid, I wasn't the smartest guy in class. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't never the smartest apple. You know what I'm saying? I didn't get all A's or none of that. I was just I was a CD, kind of student, and I realized that I started reading books that talked about money, and I end up understanding that the books that I was reading, I came more infatuated on how money can make money. And I never forget the first book I ever wrote, I read in my whole life, all the way front to back, was The Millionaire Next Door. And I started I ended up starting a Roth IRA and a TSP, and I put the minimum in there. I was doing like $50 a month, $250 to get started, and just put $50 a month. But what happened was, when I was able to I looked at my account. I never forget, it was like $300 inside my TSP. And I woke up the next day and I made like, it was like $5. And I went from 300 to 305. And just that $5, that's just $5 increase, it changed my life, because I realized that I went to sleep and I woke up and I made money while I was sleeping, right? And I never ever in my life, uh, you know, realized that you can really do that. And at that time, what I'm saying, I continued to read books. It went from Rich Dad to Poor Dad, The Millionaire Mindset, and going to college. I mean, going through high school, middle school, never reading. There was nothing that really got my attention, but books that talked about creating wealth, creating money, and then and as the account starting to grow, you go from $1,000 or $5,000. Now you wake up, you might have made $100, and then you get $10,000. You may make two, 300, 400, whatever the case may be. But this is the key, and it's one thing to this day. Right now when you have I have millions of dollars invested, and I'll wake up now, and some days I may make $60,000, $70,000 easily in one day, or I may lose that. But the takeaway is, I never lost the feeling, still feel the same way as it felt when I was making $5 a day. That feeling never changed. I never lost that feeling. That's what thrives me as I understand how money makes money. All right. So we continue to fast forward. All right. So now I'm continuing to read books. I get to a point in my life where now I'm in the military and I'm reading these books. I end up getting orders to go to Iraq. Then I ended up going to Afghanistan. While I was in Iraq and Afghanistan, I would continue to self-educate myself on, investing in the stock market and all these other things to create wealth. When I'm reading these books downrange, in a deployment environment, all these books, they all talked about, every book that I read, they say, okay, these are the different ways you create income. You have, you can work and create income. You got dividends incomes. You got stocks. You got, rental income. You got business income. And they say, I was looking at this chart one day, and they said, most people build their wealth through real estate and business. And I was like, oh man, so I'm going down, I'm checking all these different incomes, say you need some real estate or whatever the case may be. I said, shoot, man, like how do I get real estate? And I started to, I never forget, I went to my sergeant major, and he said that, I think most people will come across in their family where there's some type of real estate property within the family. And, it was either left, in my case, it was left. My grandmother passed away. She had multiple properties. She left them with her kids. And, unfortunately, my parents, they wasn't really smart enough to just move a tenant in and collect rent or whatever the case. They just want to keep Big Mama house. And but what happened is, property taxes got to be due every year and things like that. And I'm reading these books, and I'm like, where I call my mother, and I say, hey, what are y'all thoughts on selling me the house? And it's that she said, let me talk to my sister and my brother, and pretty much they obviously came back and say, yeah, we'll let you get the house, And I went to the bank, and I never forget. I go to the bank, USAA. I was a young kid, I was in I probably was 21 years old at the time. Been investing probably about a year. Been reading books telling me, hey, I need to invest in real estate. And what ended up happening was, I called USAA, and they said, well, you denied. We can't give you the loan. You don't got credit. I was like, oh man, like, okay, all right, just hung up the phone, right? And, a couple of weeks go by. I didn't talk to my mother. They wasn't bugging me to buy the house or anything like that. And my sergeant major, he walks in the office. He said, "Hey, Bethea." So yes, sergeant major. He said, "So what happened with that house? Where we at with that house that you was purchased?" "Oh, I can't get it. The banks denied me." They denied you. Are you going to quit? That's all you're going to do?" I said, "What am I supposed to do?" He said, "You need to figure out and find a way." So I didn't know banks or didn't know I need to call multiple banks. So I called USAA. I called them again. I never forget. I called this bank, and I'm on the phone with USAA, and thinking I got someone else, and I said, I'm gonna go through the process again. Gave him my social, gave them all my information. "Oh, hey, Mr. Bethea, yeah, we see that you already been declined, denied already." I was like, I'm thinking like, oh man, like they tracking everything, right? And I said, "Well, do you know why I was denied?" You say, "Yeah, because of your credit," but really you just don't have. You ain't like you got bad credit, you just don't got enough credit. I said, "Okay, is there, just any way I can be able to get this?" And she said, "Hold on for a minute, Mr. Bethea." And she came back, 2 minutes, whatever the case. She said, "Do you got any collateral?" And me, uneducated, I said, "What's collateral?" She said, "Do you own anything? Do you own anything that you can give for collateral?" I said, "You know what? My grandmother, left me 2 cars. I own her cars, and I own those outright." Within 5 minutes, I gave a 1992 Cadillac Coupe de Ville, was enough in value at the time to give the banks over the title. In return, I ended up getting a loan for the house, for the property. And that was the first way I was able to get it. And I never forgot, I purchased a house in July for $13,000. The banks ended up giving me $7,000, about $7,500. And then I was able to purchase the rest. I ended up going on a deployment, and within 30 days, I ended up getting a bonus from the military for $20,000 downrange. It was all tax free. So I was able to use my bonus, able to use my leverage, my Cadillac, use that for leverage to get my first house. And within 30 days, I paid all that off. And here we go. 20 years later, I still got own that same house. I called it my lucky charm. The house my grandma had, I still own it to this day. It's cash flows. $600 a month, own it outright. But yeah, so that was my first property, and then I continued to just repeat that process, and I ended up buying another property right down the street. And I ended up buying a property right in the backyard behind that house. And I just started with smaller houses in low income areas, the areas that I was familiar with. I was just buying houses and fixing houses up. And not only was I able to buy these houses, I was also able to take care of my friends. A lot of my friends that I grew up, their parents took care of us. We come up in those small towns. I need somewhere to eat, somewhere to sleep. They always took care of me. They always stayed like in the projects, and I was buying houses, and I was able to get them to house. The only thing they want is a backyard, maybe a clothesline. It's the small things that maybe they don't get or they have if they living in the projects or apartment type community. So I was able to be able to provide and be able to do that as I start to invest in buying houses back home in my community where I'm from. And so that's how I kind of got started with the real estate. And then I ended up going shipping out to Afghanistan back in 2010. And now, by now, I think I was, that's 10 years ago. So I was probably like 28 years old. I was maxing out, all my retirement accounts at the time, IRA, TSP. I got cash flow coming in, seeing my net worth increased dramatically. I think, by then I'm probably already at $1 million in net worth at the time. And I would just continue to buy real estate. So I got to a point when I was in Afghanistan, and I said, okay, I'm still reading these books. All right, now I got real estate, and I checked that box. All right, I have dividends because I'm getting dividend checks from Apple or whoever paid dividends in my stock portfolio. I got all these different types of sources of income that's coming in, but I didn't have business income. And that's how, when I was in Afghanistan, I was looking around. It's like, oh man, I'm starting to see people that used to be in the military. They go out and do a 20-year career and they'll come right back over to Afghanistan as a GS employee or a contractor. That was just the play. I retired for 20 years. I'm going to come to Iraq. I'm going to go to Afghanistan and I'm going to try to, get this big fat check, and that's what everybody was doing. And I knew I didn't want to do that. I was seeing guys that'll do 20 years, 25 years and, go, unfortunately they go over and, not as a soldier no more, but as a civilian and don't make it back to their family. And I've seen that happen too many times on my watch that I knew that I didn't want that for me. So I'm reading books and they say, you know what, I want to start a business. And I like any smart person to do. I was in Afghanistan, had plenty of time on my hand because the only thing you're going to do is you're going to work all day. You're going to go to the gym. And the rest of the other time I was using that to self-educate myself on creating and starting a business. And what I did was I created the Band of Brothers investment group. At that point, I knew that I was going to go and look into more business income. I wanted to create business income. So after the deployment, I took a trip over to St. Lucius with my closest friends. We all went to St. Lucius. I put everything on a PowerPoint. I'm in Afghanistan. I had so much time to think about everything. And I literally laid everything down on this PowerPoint, which I call the blueprint. And I said, this is the blueprint. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go in. We're going to look for businesses where we can start now versus wait until we get out the military. We're going to do these business while we're in the military so we can create enough income where we don't have to worry about coming to Iraq, going to Afghanistan, or, we want to be able to spend time with our kids. And I start backwards planning. And the military teach you a lot with backwards planning. I love the fact that we backwards plan a lot in the military. Not only we backwards plan in the military, but we also do this method called the crawl, walk, run method. We do that for everything that we do. So I put everything in place and I created the Bands of Brothers investment group. And I wrote all the pros and cons. And I came up to like 3 different franchises that I wanted to get involved with. It was Anytime Fitness, Zaxby's, and it was Jersey's Mike's. And we got approved to open all 3. And the reason I was able to get approved so good was I didn't realize at a young age how, having a net worth at $1 million, having real estate portfolio, it was just easier for me to go to the banks to get approved. But I didn't have the business background was the only negative. But I had the military, leadership, being in the military. I was promoted 7 times in 7 years. I literally went from E1 to E7 in 7 years. And then, 10 in 10 years, I was promoted 10 times, which I switched over, became a warrant officer. But all that leadership, I was able to build out a business plan. And I wrote down all the pros and cons. And by the time I outweighed the pros and cons, it was obviously I ended up choosing, Anytime Fitness because of the fact that all the other businesses, had a high labor cost, need to have a lot of employees. We kind of focused on something that had a high EBITDA, less employees, and a company that had a strong brand. At the time, it was like the #1 franchise at the time. They had really, really good support from the corporate headquarters. And I was able to, put that plan together, go back to my team, build that in my team, took all the everything that I learned in the military as a warrant officer at that time. Now I'm a warrant officer in my career. I was always been worked at the higher strategic levels, 2-star command, 3-star command, 4-star command. And I'm right there. I'm either briefing these generals or I'm preparing the slide decks to go out to brief these generals. That's literally like, like right now, my current job is in the Pacific. And, my boss we report straight to the White House. You know what I'm saying? We go to the White House or the Pentagon. But my boss is the president. So that give you the level of what we control, everything in the Pacific, 70% of the world population. And when you're in a position like that, you learn how to operate and you learn how to be able to open multiple businesses and things like that. So what happened was I created my group, and we ended up opening the first location in Dallas, Texas, and then from Dallas, Texas, we went to North Carolina. North Carolina, we went to Hawaii, and we just been opening up businesses, and we've been able to, we don't even, we all live here in Hawaii, my team, with Bands and Brothers, but guess what? All our businesses and everything, we run them just like the generals run soldiers on the ground. We can control the whole battlefield in one location, and that's how we look at everything. In the military, we got a lot of brigades, a battalion with company commanders, and we look at those as general managers at all our locations, and we create KPIs and things like that that we do a lot of in the military. We incorporate that in our business. We run a tight, lean business, and we run the most profitable business for the Anytime Fitness. We are the top operators. We get awards every year. This year, we're going to get awards. Systems and processes, that's what we are good at. That's what we focus on. That's like our number one priority. So fast forward with that, now here we are. At the time, I end up coming across a path where I end up learning about alternative investments, and now creating more income. What's next? I'm always like, what's next? Well, you need alternative investments. What is alternative investments? Anything dealing outside of traditional income. Now we start getting into more limited partner dealerships. Limited partner deals with apartments. And me and my guys, I created a couple of entities where now that we had a holding company and we own all these profitable business. As the money comes up to the holding company, we are investing that money into multifamily, into hotels, into senior livings, into private equity deals, into any way that we can create money. Because my guys, their number one focus is to run the businesses. All right, I oversee everything. My goal is, how are we able to continue to create wealth? All right, through our business, so that we can invest it into passive deals. And those passive deals will create and generate more wealth for our family. And that's what I came great at. That's how, pretty much that's how I got started with the whole thing. And you kind of look back now, now I done grew my net worth, over 10 million. We got so many assets. I got into the vacation rental space with Airbnb. I got to do Toro. I pretty much, if, whatever give us, good profit margins, safe investments, real estate is a great way to build wealth. One of my things is, we take majority of our income, we pump it back right into multifamily, pump it right into vacation rentals and things like that. So that's kind of like, the overall thing. So I probably want to break for a minute, and maybe you got some questions or anything, Vince, you want to talk more, we can discuss more.
Well, I was just going to say, that's the show. Stay tuned for the next episode. But no, there's so much there. I just took some notes here of, I'm trying to figure out how much I want to backtrack over all that you just said. So, and then somehow you met me, right? That's the end is somehow you reached out, met me, and now we're here. But we'll get to that later. One thing I wrote down, the first note I wrote down in, I don't know how much of my story I want to share, but gonna. I think at some point people recognize and can see themselves in other people, and what they've been to, and I think that we connected like that a lot. If I were to tell my story, it would be fairly similar. I joined the military because I was in delayed entry program, and then during that time I also dropped out of high school, ran away from home, lived on my own for 2 years, and then ended up in front of a judge, holding that delayed entry program card. Like, if you just let me off, like I got the card, I'm leaving. And they let me off. And then a month later, I called my recruiter because I was in delayed entry program for a job that I really wanted. And then I got in trouble. And I was in front of the judge, and I was like, I will call the recruiter and I will take the next job out. Luckily it wasn't a cop. But it was, I got aircraft maintenance. So, I got aircraft maintenance was the next job shipping out. So I was on the plane like a week later. I left, I think it was like maybe 2 weeks after I turned 18, or 3 weeks after I turned 18. I was on the plane for basic training. And I was like, finally made it out of that town, never going back. Fast forward like a year, I'm in my dress blues in front of my commander, explaining about all the dumb shit I did. And I had in my first year, I'm gonna say 14 months. My first 14 months, I don't know if the Army has LORs, letters of reprimand. Yes. But yeah, so I had 3 LORs and Article 15 in my first 14 months. And I am here. I made it 15 years in the military because I had that person that looked at me and was like, you're a good kid. You work really hard. You got some demons you brought with you. You haven't grown out of them yet. You haven't figured them out yet. But they're going to give me another shot because they saw, a bit of their self in me. So I got that second shot too. Or I got a third shot at that point, the third shot. And then ever since then, I was 21. I became a learning machine. Between 22 and 26, I probably read hundreds of books and tens of thousands of dollars in, self-education that I spent on my own, out of my own pocket, to just consume and soak up everything. And I did the whole path. Like, first you got to like save all the stuff. And then you realize you can't save yourself rich. Like, sure, you can cut expenses and live frugally. Cause then you start reading all those books, like, The Millionaire Next Door, like, well, buy 3-year-old cars and all this stuff. And, go buy used clothes at yard sales. And I'm like, oh yeah. So I was all on it. I'm like, okay, watch my bankroll rich. And then it hits you. I'm like, man, you can't save yourself rich. Like, you have to invest, you have to, create. So then it's like, okay, graduate from kind of that millionaire next door type of mindset where you're just like trying to save. And then you get into like stock investing. So I did all stock investing, and then, you get on deployments, and it's really easy to invest in stocks because, you have internet access and a lot of time. So I started reading all the, Warren Buffett books and Peter Lynch and all those guys. And then I got into real estate as well. And, everybody on the show knows how I got into real estate, my VA house hack I did. But I did want to take a note of kind of the one book that launched. And the reason I'm bringing this up is this one book. I used to not tell anybody my story because I was super embarrassed. I was like ashamed of, I didn't want people to know where I came from and what I did to get where I was. So I didn't tell anybody for years. Until I read the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. And that book was like I read it like 3 times in a row. Like there's a quote in there. And I don't remember exactly what it is, but everybody, if anybody's read his book, Grant Cardone, he went through rough patch as well, and therapy and all that stuff. And he came to the realization that's like, that story you have, all those hardships that you've done, everybody thinks you're at rock bottom, and then at some point you have to flip the switch in your head, and so you're not at rock bottom. You're on a fucking launch pad. And as soon as he figured that out, and that switch flipped, he took off. And if anybody knows Grant Cardone, then where he's at now. Right. And so that book, the 10X Rule, and out of all the books I've read, investing, self help, and all those type of things, and personal growth, like that was the one that like propelled me the furthest, and like really flipped that switch of like, getting out of that town I was in, the situation I was in, and shedding those limiting beliefs that you have from where you came from and what you think you're capable of. And without that, like who knows where I'd be, but
I agree.
yeah.
And piggyback off you, man. That's obviously the 10X rule. Like, if you were to ask, like, what's your best book? I'm gonna say all day. Grant Cardone, 10X, which piggyback, like, how we kind of came across path was, I've been going to the Grant Cardone 10X conference, and I was like, oh man, like, I'm creating all this income. I was like, I gotta get into multifamily, right? And then that's when I created that Bands of Brothers Real Estate group, which, we disbanded that, meeting, Vince reaching out to you and say, hey man, like, would you mind, teaching me, mentoring me? And you was like, I tell you what, how about, I'll teach you everything I know. And, I'm saying, we kind of go from there. Right. And that's what happened, got a role at the table, come in as the acquisition, help, KP the loans, raise the capital and all those deals. But the book of the 10X, I knew I wanted to, I wanted to buy apartments. I used to, I said, man, let me write things down. And every year, me and my wife, we sit down, we get these index cards, these 3x5 index cards, and we write down business goals, right? And then we write down family goals and personal goals. And I used to just write down goals that, like, let me push myself. But when I started to do the 10X, I started do 10X goals. And I did my first 10X goals. And I was hitting. I was like, I'm gonna get into 10 LP deals, and I'll never forget. It was like, I think it was like August. I'm like, shit, I only had 4 LP deals or private equity alternative deals. And then I never forget, me and my wife was talking. I said it was November, and I had like 6 deals on the table. And literally, from November to December, I ended up investing and getting into like 4 more like killer deals, all because of the 10X way. And at that point, the next year I said I want to get into buying apartments, right? And that's when I created, I'm saying, like, I got to figure out how to get into apartments. Like, this is what I want to do, and reaching out to Vince and Tri-City, it has been phenomenal. It's been a journey. In fact, I think we just hit, a year since we've been working together and learning, and every day it's a grind. It's every day I'm learning different stuff. But the most important thing that within a year of time, I think I done invested with Tri-City and as a partner, as a general partner, on I think it's been about 4 deals now. Was able to come in and raise capital on the View and Bay Street, the Flats, Park Place, all within 12 months time. I went from just want to have 1 apartment to only 4 apartments. Having over almost 1,000 units that we currently being invested in, and just been a phenomenal. And I never would have probably got there if I would have probably crossed over to the 10X way of thinking. And that's where I'm at now. And Magic Johnson, I think, said it best one time. He said the same time it takes to make $1 million, the same amount of time it takes to make $100 million. And that was like a 10X. In back of my head, like, that's like 10X. So right now I'm on a journey of creating, trying to hit $100 million in assets as fast as possible. And I want to do it shorter time than, how long it took for me to make $1 million. But I understand that process, understand that way of thinking. And my goal is to continue to grow business, the purchase. And my goal is, I always say, my short-term goal is 100 businesses, 100 sources of income, where that, if we invest in deals or, we doing it active or passive, it just, I want to believe in it. I want to hit 100 sources of income. And that's my short-term goal. And I want to get that through businesses, through Bands and Brothers Investment Group, and owning multifamily with Tri-City Equity Group.
Nice. I'm super excited, super grateful to have you on the team. Definitely taking us to the next level. And I know we're running short on time. Let me see. Actually, one more question. We'll roll. We'll start rolling out.
We can keep it going if you want.
Okay.
We can go.
All right. Well then, so what is the biggest mistake you've made, and what have you learned from that?
Good question. The biggest mistake I made, I would probably say my first venture. It was a location I chose to open up in Dallas, Texas. The biggest mistake was market research. It was my first business that I opened. It was like my second business, because the first business I was buying some barbershops, but I would say my first business, like SBA loan, where you got to be a guarantor, was I lacked the market research, market analysis, location is without a doubt the most important part. And also you got to know your partners. At that time, I'm this kid that, my first deal was like a JV with one of my friends, it wasn't even with the Bands of Brothers at the time. I just, the Bands of Brothers, we started that, but I went on a path by myself at first. And I stepped out, went into a franchise, and I didn't, when you don't come from money, you don't have nothing. And sometimes you'll get with a group where that, $500,000 is just nothing to them. Well, it meant everything. I had my, I guaranteed the loan. And because of the fact that in this real estate market that I went into, it was tucked off in the center, and it wasn't nowhere near. It probably was the worst spot in the whole center. Can't no visibility from the road whatsoever. Like literally tucked off. And the worst mistake was market analysis. I should have did more market analysis. And if I can go back and change that, I probably would not change it. Maybe right now, obviously, but I probably wouldn't be where I'm at now if I wouldn't went through that. I didn't really go to a traditional college. I went online, checking the box, right? But I always tell people that my degree cost me about $500,000. All right, so that's how much I paid for school, was learning everything, because that gave me the tools I needed to go. And I doubled down, like literally, like in the negative, in the red, bleeding every month. And I go out, and what I do, I double down. I open up another franchise in North Carolina, put all my systems in place. I put my Bands of Brothers to work, gave them the blueprint, and we had the #1 club in the state of North Carolina. And then we opened up another one and another one, and we just kept on killing it. And I still had this, and I still own this distress and this distress investment. And I know for a fact that it's the location, because we are the top operators, and we put everything that we can into this one particular investment. And we still bleeding, but we don't bleed like we used to.
Well, that's yeah, and I've heard that story, that situation that, offline, that you kind of walking us through how that happened and what you've learned from it as well. And now I know that, when it comes to legal guaranteeing loans, you're very particular. And you want the time, you want your lawyers to look at, you want to make sure, you know exactly what, we're getting into as you should. So, like I said, definitely lessons learned there. What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
So, I teach and mentor a lot of people, thousands of people. I'm the guy that, before I wasn't as busy as I was, I'm like, hey, listen to me. You need to do this. You need to do that. They're like, who's this 25, 26-year-old kid? I'm saying, like kind of blowing me out to the side. But now, I'm saying, people be all up and down trying to get advice. And I'm like, damn, I don't got the time, but I'm going to give Carp as much time out. At 20 years old, I started investing, 2021. And I'm looking for the next Dearonne. And I got a couple of young kids, man. That's one of the guys in the Air Force, and it's another guy, man. And I'm trying to, like, they doing everything I did. And then when you meet thousands of people, right? And all these people you meet, you're trying to figure out, like, hey, you 20 years old. The most important thing you can do is invest. When I was 20, what I probably should have did was I should have saved more. You know what I'm saying? I was just doing the traditional crap. You read those books and say, put 10%, Nah, man, I should have been trying to figure out how to save 50%, And I didn't start saving 50% until I was like 20, 28, 27. Me and my wife been living off one paycheck for over 12 years now. But, I should have been, just saving as much money as possible. Like every dollar created, I should have been investing it. And if I can go back and change that, I would have did that. And I probably would have never spent $100,000 on a 745 Li at 24 years old. So that's that was a stupid mistake, but
everybody's got those. I had a built Subaru STI that I put about like, I don't know, 40 grand into, but it was fast. It was real fast, but it was stupid. It was really stupid. And that moment, it was, leaving on a flatbed completely, shelled out. I'm like, well, that was a big waste of money. Anyway, yeah. So let's get on here. I know we're running short on time. I want to hit up the fire round real quick, and then we got some announcements we want to do. Before we hit this fire round, I think, oh yeah, we did mention it already. We mentioned it with the mini series. So the call we had leading up to this call was, okay, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to go over? What's the best value we can bring to everybody? And it's too much for one show. So we're going to split it up. So for everybody here, be on the lookout. We're probably going to do a 3 to 5 episode mini series. We're going to call it the Blueprint, and the Blueprint will, that name has a meaning behind it, which we'll hear about in a second, but we'll do a Blueprint mini series, and we're going to dive deep into everything. Building businesses, buying assets, have your businesses buy your assets that pay for your liabilities, Airbnbs, like how it all works together. We're going to dive deep into that, and make a mini series out of it. But, and we'll come back to this, but, let's just hit up this fire round real quick, and we'll do our closeout, and our special announcement here. So, all right, fire round. These are the same questions we ask everybody. So first thing that comes to head. So what is the best book that you recommend other than Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Grant Cardone, 10X Rule.
Perfect. Knew you were going to say that. What is your superpower?
Making money.
Making money. What's the biggest lesson you've ever learned?
Market research.
Market research. All right. For the busy working professional who's working toward financial freedom, what advice do you have?
Save as much money as you can. Do not save.
I gotta invest it. Like I'm on the you can't save yourself rich camp. So,
but
I understand the importance of saving. Right? It's saving and paying yourself first. I'm a big believer in that.
Right. I want to carry out. I got about 10 million, right? And this is what we're worth, right? So I literally have $0 in a savings account. So just make sure.
Okay, there you go.
and
save and invest.
Yeah. So in my checking account, literally got just enough money to pay our living expense, and everything else is invested. So yes.
That's good. That's good stuff. Okay, how can our audience get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on Facebook, Dearonne Bethea, or Instagram, just Dearonne Bethea, or you can. I'm not like only Dearonne Bethea on Google, right? Like you can literally Google me. I think I'm the only Dearonne Bethea in the world. Me and my son.
Me too. I'm the only Vince Gethings. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one. It's a very uncommon name. All right, so special announcement. We got this thing in the works. We're spending a lot of time on it. I know the Band of Brothers team is putting in the hours and the sweat to get this thing off the ground. So I'm gonna let you do the announcement of what we got coming up next year.
All right. So next year, July 21st through the 24th, please come out and join us for the Hawaii Millionaire Mindset, the Blueprint. And we are going to bring it. We're going to teach you how to, purchase those income producing assets, how you can, scale your business, or how do you go to the next level. We are trying to help bridge the gap between, W-2 income, how to create multiple streams of income, which is all K1. So we're going to be, me, Vince, we got some special guests. We're going to be launching the website here this week. Be ready, come out, support us. We're going to have a lot of events going on. We're going to have a nice golf day out here. We're going to be in the here in Coralina, right here in my backyard, on this beautiful resort at the Four Seasons. So come on out. Stay tuned for the Blueprint miniseries.
Yep, thank you. And if you don't know, for those that aren't in Hawaii, I've never been to the island of Oahu, just Google Ko'olina. Disney Alani is there, Four Seasons there. I don't know if the Atlantis thing, I moved away. I don't know whatever happened with Atlantis, but resort town, world-class golf, great restaurants, 2-day event, 400 something people. It's going to be epic. So absolutely put on your calendars, make an effort to get out there. This isn't a vacation. This is an investment in your future. You deserve it. Your family deserves it. So we'll see you out there. We'll put the website in the link. It's millionairemindsetblueprint.com, but we'll put the link in the show notes as well. But that's all I got, D. Like I said, this is part one. What we're going to do, there's more. There's more here. We got to get into it. So looking forward to the next episode.
All right.
See you.
See you.
Man, that was such a killer show. I got to go back and do some reflection, maybe go for a run and just think about everything that just happened the last hour. Really brought back memories of where I got started, where I came from, how far I have come. Same thing with D and his team. There's so many lessons learned in there about limiting beliefs, about self-education, about setting goals, getting after it, being the master of your fate, and really growing for something bigger than yourself, for your family. So, and then, living a great life. He's a multiple franchise owner, millions of dollars in real estate, assets, everywhere. He probably don't even know how many assets. He's got Airbnbs, he's got businesses, he's got rentals, he got, things, just everything he's accumulated over the last 20 years, all paying him, all supporting him, his family, his charities, and his ventures. I know he does a thing, and he didn't mention this, but he does a thing where he feeds, he has these homeless food drives, and he feeds like thousands of people every year, different cities throughout the country. And, he does a lot of good things, but you can't do that if you're broke. So it's another reason why, being successful to me is important, because it's really hard to support those things and those type of charities when you don't have any money to do it. So definitely go back, listen to that show again. If you haven't listened to 10X Rule, listen to it, read it, get the hard copy. It's I like the audio version because it's Grant Cardone himself narrating it. So that's kind of adds an extra level of entertainment. But yeah, if you think you suffer from like limiting beliefs, read that book. It'll kick your ass out of that. So definitely subscribe to the show if you haven't. Share it with anybody else that you think would benefit from this episode or any of the episodes of Tri-City Equity Group or Cashflow Project. And we'll see you on the next time. And we look forward to the mini series that's going to come out of this one episode. So take care.